For those of you who don't know, our story begins in a small western Massachusetts town called Lenox. Lenox has about 5,000 people, is 98% white, and has an average income of about $60,000. But none of those things define Lenox. There's a lot of different people in Lenox, who all have very different ideas, and it's really just got the small town atmosphere that is so valued in America. The Millionaire has been the school's mascot for a long time, but now some people think it's time for a change. Actually, 67% of the school thinks it's time for a change.
So when the student council got together, they knew it needed to be brought up.
So, we went and talked to one of those student council members.
We are currently in the middle of nowhere, on another planet basically. About to interview Jimmy J. Chassie.
So the way that we did the survey was every single year the school has to send out a survey asking about like if they feel safe in school. Like I think it's just called like a district like analysis survey.
What Jimmy is referring to is called the Strategic Plan Survey that gets sent out every year to parent, staff, student, and community groups. Their purpose is to gauge constituent perceptions and measure progress towards goals identified in the Lenox Public Schools 2015-2020 Strategic Plan. This survey typically contains prompts such as, "My school is a positive learning environment. I have the opportunity to learn new things and develop new interests. The leadership of my school is accessible and available. Lenox students and staff communicate respectfully, and I believe I am a capable student." The community survey is more about budget, finance, and transparency, which are important issues, yet only received 31 participants in 2016. At first glance, all we can see is pride and joy for this name. What could possibly be wrong with it?
I feel strongly that the name should be changed, and I think my main reasons for doing that, a lot of it has to do with just wanting to bring pride for the people of Lenox and the students of our school, because I feel like the name the Millionaires is not something that a lot of us connect to or feel represented by, because of the way it kind of brings connotations of elitism and is exclusive to a lot of people, and so we feel that we should find a new name that is better able to welcome all members of our community and welcome new members as well as the old, instead of just kind of speaking to a smaller group of our town.
You know, Lenox is already viewed as a wealthy town. We do have snobby students that are pretty well known for being snobby around the county, and I feel like just putting the Millionaire name on top of all that is like the cherry on top. It just makes it a lot worse, and I feel like maybe if we change the name, that entire stigma would be broken.
Lenox has a lot to offer in general, and all of our students, or most of them, are very welcoming people. They are smart and intelligent, and want to work hard to make a great society, but I think that the name The Millionaires kind of makes it seem like we are doing that in a way that acts like we're better than everyone, or that we think highly of ourselves, as opposed to just wanting everyone to be equal, especially to people from outside of the county, just because I know in the Berkshires it's kind of like something that's joked about, and a lot of schools will be like, oh, like you're the Millionaires, like making fun of us. But in terms of people who aren't from the Berkshires that don't really know like what our town is about, it's one of the first things that they see. And I know like in talking to people, they will be like, why would you ever go to a school that's named the Millionaires or something? So it kind of gives this first impression that's really not what Lenox is about.
And who would know more about this topic than the president of the senior class?
I think I'm on the side of the majority of students, which is to change the mascot. And because the mascot is supposed to represent the students of the school, then we should probably listen to the people that it represents and change it if they want to change it. There have been many students in the town that point out that when they go to other towns, even if it's for non-school related events, and people find out they're from Lenox, especially students from other schools that find out that they're from Lenox, the Millionaires kind of serves as a connotation for the Lenox students, and I wouldn't say they're bullied, but I'd say that they're teased for it.
Have you ever met anyone who has either been bullied for or offended by the Millionaire name?
Yeah, I have. I've met several people who have come up to me and told me, when I went to this sport game, I was taunted for being a millionaire. Like, thank you for like going and like trying to like change it. Thanks for the survey. Like, this is. I feel like, as people know that we're like doing something about it, it's. A lot of people are more like appreciative of it, and like they're like happy that we're at least trying to do something about the name. And as you can see, like the school, the majority of the school does. They do feel the same way as I do and Julie does, as like we want to change. So this isn't like a two-person thing against everybody else. It's 2/3 of the school versus 1/3 of the school and some people in the town.
But are students really being bullied?
Playing sports for the past couple years, I can name sometimes people have jousted or poked at the name Millionaires. But in high school sports, people make fun of just about anything. I've seen people made fun of for their hair, their socks, the color of their uniform, how they play. With high school sports being competitive as they are, that's how it is.
I would say most of the bullying that's being talked about surrounding the Millionaire name is, heckling and teasing from other high school kids, usually during sporting events and things like that.
Aside of sports, I've never heard anyone say anything about the name or the school. But besides that, I mean, sports are going to be competitive. You're going to have jousting and teasing within that sports. It's the name of the game.
And so I think for the people who graduated Millionaires and feel strongly about keeping the name, you will always be Millionaires, and that's great, and that can be a part of your history. But for the current students of Lenox, I think that we want a different legacy and to kind of welcome a new future instead of thinking of it as like we're changing the past. I think it should be thought of more that we are allowing the current students to have a new like history and not be held back by the way that people used to have think of our school.
The mascot has a lot of history in the town, and it means a lot to the families that have lived here for years, for generations. However, those alumni don't attend the school anymore, and there are new students in the school who feel differently about the mascot, and we should now listen to those students, because we can't listen to the alumni forever.
You know, the town that has graduated as a millionaire we can never take that away from them. They will forever be a millionaire, and we as the new generations that are coming in, I think we have to live with it too, and I think we should be able to decide what name we want to live with.
The main message here is, if you were born a millionaire, then you always will be a millionaire. I don't think they're met with much disagreement there.
Well, if it does get changed, I'll die being a millionaire.
Many are passionately combating this name change, most notably lifelong residents and Lenox alumni.
These kids will graduate, and they're not going to come back to Lenox. The only thing that Lenox is rich in is history and community spirit. And I also feel that there are many alumni that give quite generously to our scholarship fund. And who knows, maybe if we're not millionaires, we want to get that money. I'm not going to speak for them, and I'm not going to assume, but I do have a concern about that.
People that say that it's a snobby thing are totally missing the point on the name.
If there's bullying, then get rid of the bullying. Don't change the name of the Millionaires.
We tracked down some vocal defenders of the name to hear their opinions.
We're almost out of gas. We might not make it.
Lights on, lights on. Might have to
The
postpone.
gas light's on, guys.
Might have to postpone till
Stay
tomorrow.
tuned. We'll see what happens.
Tom Bosworth, Brian Shepardson, and Fran Sorrentino kindly agreed to speak with us.
So I am very for the Lenox Millionaire name. As you can see, I'm sporting a shirt which I sell on a non-profit basis to various people around town. I'm for the name because it's a tradition. It was given to us a long time ago. It fits with the town. It fits with the history.
No one balked at it because it was fitting. It fit. The cottage era supported us, and it's what we embrace. We embrace the beautiful community, all these beautiful buildings and everything. It's all because of those people. So it was a tribute to them. It isn't anything to be embarrassed about. It's something to take pride in. If once you knew the history, you may take pride in it.
I don't want it to be changed. I've made a short list of another way that it's changed, like, for instance, the Mount, Cranwell, Blantyre, Ventford Hall, Canyon Ranch, Shakespeare and Company, Belvoir Terrace, Elm Court, and parts of Tanglewood, which was started out as a Tappan estate. All of those places were homes of the wealthy, and they are now attractions for tourists. Every one of those names I said are an attraction for tourists. And they come here, they stay, they spend money. We don't have a lot of industry. We only have a small industrial blend part of Lennox Steel, but that's it.
If that was the name and it was good enough for my parents and my grandparents that went to Lenox, then and it had a significance, then I'd say keep it.
I was shocked, actually, when the survey went out. And the building administrators, I mean, they never saw the survey. They were aware of it. And like I say, student council, they're supposed to advocate for the students. I give them a lot of credit. But there's so many other issues that they could go for. We have a lot of, major things that Lenox needs to look at. And I would think that these kids' initiative could go towards that. It would be great.
The wealthy people, regardless of what anybody says, were great in shaping this town to what it is today, with all of these places that I read that are now so vital to our community and to our way of living.
Apparently they've been bullied. I don't understand why they don't want to hang on to the heritage and hang on to the history of it. They're not interested in that for some reason. And back when Shirley Vincent used to do our Town Ourselves projects, kids were more interested in the history because they were made to be. But it's never written in a history book that we're the Lenox Millionaires.
Right.
Did you get a sense that this name was unpopular? Or did this sort of just come out of the blue? Or is it just a
Mostly
few?
from kids that are school choice or have not lived here. The kids that have lived here their whole lives and that parents have lived here, they seem to all love it. My son being one of them. I mean, they get very worked up when people say, let's change the name.
At risk of abandoning all professionalism, we talked to some kids who are upset by the name change.
I'm Max Shepardson.
I'm Jeffrey Clifford, a 7th grader that goes to Lenox Memorial Middle and High School.
And I'm entering the 6th grade in Lenox Memorial High School. So basically, we were assigned for the last day of school, we were supposed to say, I am from, and then we wrote poems. And it would be like, I am from blah, 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 I am from blah, 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 blah. And you'd have to say one line in front of the whole school at the end of the year, last day of school. And about 6 to 7 kids said, I am from being a Lenox Millionaire.
And also,
And we're the Sea of Gold.
Yeah, Sea of Gold.
You have to change all that.
And
It's
everything
really
like that.
complicated too, so.
And if we change the logo, we're gonna have to change our school colors, which I also love the maroon and gold. I just think those are awesome colors together.
There's no, and if everything changes, there's no more Sea of Gold. There's not as much spirit into it.
Yeah.
Nothing that really describes like Lenox and its history. Nothing else really describes that. Except for like Tanglewood, we could be like the Lenox Singers. But the sports teams, that's not gonna help them. People are saying they're getting bullied for that stuff. Well, every name's gonna have its flaws. There can't be a perfect name.
It's been our name for a while, but I know it was, our town was named Yoakum Town before that. But right after that, wasn't it called like the Lenox Merchants and then the Lenox Millionaires?
The Lenox Merchants was a basketball team in Lenox.
Can I say something?
It wasn't a high school. It was
Can I
just
say something?
it was like a semi-professional basketball league. All right, wait, let Jeffrey finish.
And also, it's kind of a strong name that's just like stands out. Lenox Millionaires.
If this came from the student body, now there's 765 students in the Lenox Public Schools. 280 of those do not live in Lenox. They're school choice. That's a lot of people. They came from the Wildcats, the Braves, the Generals, etc., etc. And those are nice names, but they don't have the historical background that the Millionaires has. If you're a school choice student living somewhere else, you probably don't appreciate that because you haven't been told about it, you know?
Hold on. Let's talk about school choice for a moment.
The definition of school choice is, and I quote, an educational policy based on vouchers or scholarships, allowing students their choice of private or public school.
In this context, that means students from Lee, Pittsfield, Beckett, Richmond, wherever, can enroll in Lenox school systems and have their town cover a portion of those costs. More and more students are opting for school choice in Lenox, with an average gain of about 15 students per year. While not exactly right, Mr. Bosworth's numbers are just a few off from the actual 279 out of 740, or 38%, of students who are school choice. This has raised the question of whether or not a school choice student should have the same say in this debate. Let's ask a school choice student. Do you think that gives you any less of a right to decide the name?
I really don't think so because, school choice students do give $5,000 to the school every single year that we go there. And I think we've contributed a lot. We've had valedictorians that have been school choice. We've had students that have done great things at the school because of school choice. So I really don't think that that they should get, school choice students should get less of a say than Lenox residents.
You can't just rely on the school, which has 280 people that aren't residents. You can't do that.
School choice debate aside, let's examine another argument.
History.
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 History. The biggest argument that we've seen from people who want to keep the name so far is that it has history. And that history goes back a long ways. But what exactly is that history?
Honestly, all you gotta do is drive through the center of town to be able to see the historical wealth. But what is the full story?
That's a question we intend to answer. With no lack of resources, we dug in to see what we could find. Here are the results. Lenox was incorporated in 1767 and named after then Duke of Richmond, Charles Lenox. The first Berkshire cottager, Samuel Gray Ward, did not arrive till almost a century later in 1840. His arrival foreshadowed the cottage era that would dominate the late 18 and early 1900s and change Lenox forever. No one knows exactly why everyone came to Lenox. It could have been the scenery, the beauty, the foliage, or a combination of it all. Regardless of the reason, they came, and they came in great numbers. Before anyone knew it, property was being bought up left and right, and beautiful, beautiful mansions were being built all over the town of Lenox. Many of these mansions still exist in the town today and can be visited freely. As is expected, the town was helped greatly by this need for workers.
The Millionaires reshaped this town. When they did that, they brought in immigrants, including my family. They brought in immigrants from France, England, Ireland, Poland, Italy, all over Europe, and they brought them here to work for them and on their mansions.
We really wanted to have our facts right, so we went and talked to published local historian Carol Owens, who just so happened to have the remains of one of those cottages in her backyard.
Called shadow preservation. When you don't have the house.
Before we left, Dr. Owens shared her own views on the Millionaire debate.
I'm not so sure that the super rich in America today are patriotic. They're moving their jobs and their factories offshore to increase their profits.
Dr. Owens argues that it is the real-life millionaires who have changed, and that we should not forget that it is the cottage-era millionaires who the name honors, not whoever exists today. We can now understand why the Millionaires got their name, but that doesn't shed any light on how they got their name.
1941, Mr. Mahana, he wrote first when the baseball team won the first tournament, and he wrote that the young millionaires are well on their way. That was the first time that it was written in a sport article that I was ever told. Then back in the 60s, O'Gara was his name. He wrote for the Berkshire Eagle, and he dubbed us the Millionaires.
According to the stories and the work of Berkshire Eagle staff, journalist O'Gara and Flynn in the 1940s assigned secondary names to all local high school sports teams. The Pittsfield Generals, after General Electric, the St. Joe Saints for obvious reasons, which was later changed to the Crusaders, the Lehigh Wildcats due to a confused comparison to Princeton and their mascot, which is a tiger, not a wildcat. And finally, we have the Lenox Millionaires, originally named Sons of the Millionaires, but then later shortened. Unfortunately, this all must remain a story, as there's no documentation showing the Millionaire name going back this far. We even took a trip down to the Berkshire Eagle archives to see if we could uncover something. We could only find mentions dating back to the 1970s, most likely around the time that the name was unofficially adopted as the Lenox High School mascot. There was no record of a formal acceptance of the Millionaire mascot. The last piece of history to be addressed are past attempts to change the name.
I think actually teachers did this a bit ago. Like a few years ago, I think there were 2 teachers that did this survey, and the results came out 50-50.
It's been voted down 9 times. You guys must have voted in your English class at some point too, over the years. And it always got voted down.
All right, what can you tell us about past attempts to change the name? And have they ever been this successful or this strong?
I've heard rumors about it before. That's why I started making these shirts, I don't know, it was probably 5 years ago. And I think it always gets to a certain point, and then everybody just says it's ridiculous. And the townspeople kind of rise up and squash it. Hopefully that'll happen again this time.
Let's recap. Pro. The Millionaire name has a lot of history, which is valuable. Remembering and memorializing our history is one of life's treasures, but is it important enough to justify keeping the name? Con. Kids are being teased over the name, although it is unclear if a change would stop the teasing, especially at sporting events. Pro. The name has legacy and tradition, separate from the history that has developed in just the last 50 years of documented usage. Con. To outsiders, our school can come across as snobby and exclusive. Without knowing the history or context of the name, it is easy to see arrogance at first glance. Pro. The name has a certain uniqueness that other organizations have just failed to capture. Con. Being a millionaire is not something that everyone has the luxury of having or ever achieving.
Hello, I like money.
Pro. The economy of Lenox still relies very much on the wealthy. Con. The majority of students don't want this name. You can talk about arguments all day, but the only thing that really matters is how we proceed from here. What do you believe is the best process for changing the name? Should the town vote? Should the school vote? Should just the superintendent decide? How should we do that?
Well, the school kind of already voted.
Being on the school committee, I don't think it gives us any weight or whatever. Everybody has an opinion and everybody's entitled to it. And I just want to reaffirm that I don't think it's a school committee decision. I really think it's a town decision. And yes, there may be more of them than there are of us now, but at least we know we gave it a good try.
I could see a poll of some kind going out to the entire community, but a lot of those people are relatively new and maybe they have a different view than I do, but I'm not changing mine. But that would be a better way to do it.
A town vote.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think that the town should vote on it, mainly because the school or the mascot itself does not affect most of the residents of Lenox because they don't go to the school. So I think a referendum in the town would be unnecessary.
School students, I feel like that wouldn't be fair because they're only here for a few years. It's like basically everybody that ever graduated from Lenox should have a say if they're going to do that. It's not just while you're there that you're a millionaire, it's your legacy as well. So I don't think it's fair for anybody in the school to decide this. And it's not really fair for just the school committee because they're elected by the town. It would have to be a town vote, I would think.
A lot is on the shoulders of Tim Lee, superintendent, from this point forward. So we went and talked to him. Are you looking into any ways to get the alumni's voices heard in this debate, or are you sticking to it being a school issue for the current students and administration?
Well, I certainly wouldn't rule out anything. One of the questions that we need to explore first off is how do we even have this discussion? Or should we even have this discussion? And that is something that I plan to take up with the school committee when we get together at the end of August. We have an annual summer retreat, the school committee and myself. And it's going to be on the agenda to try and decide sort of the priority of this issue right now and outline some sort of process that we would go through to gather all the input from all the constituents that exist within our school community. What we've done so far is that we have an annual strategic planning survey that we distribute to 4 primary constituent groups: staff, students, parents, and then community taxpayers outside of the direct school community, but still vote every year to approve the school budget.
So this is the same survey that we talked about before. It's available at Town Hall or online. Like we said, last year only 31 people participated in the community survey. Hopefully you've already completed this survey because the time frame for it is currently closed. Fortunately, we were able to screen grab the question before that survey went down. It reads, student leadership at LMMHS is seeking opinions from the school community about the school's mascot, the Millionaire. Some students feel that another mascot or team name would better represent the school and its students and would allow students to feel more pride in their school. Please respond to the following statement. I would support consideration of a change to our team name/mascot. If this seems foreign to you, you're not alone. We spoke to many people who are completely unaware of this survey.
Again, that's going to happen at the end of August.
So, would you say that there is no real protocol that you're following here for changing a mascot name? Are you guys sort of having to figure out the best approach by yourselves?
Yeah, I would say that's correct, Tyler.
Yes,
Thank you.
And good luck figuring out what you guys are going to do.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
All right, take it easy.
We needed more, so we went for a professional opinion. We reached out to international branding agency Landor. We were then put in touch with branding expert Mark Hershon, who was very interested in the Millionaire mascot. He said that our name had developed positive brand equity along with negative brand equity. The good people of Lenox, he said, should look at whether the positive brand equity outweighs the negative in the case of the Millionaires. When asked his professional opinion, he said that a name like the Millionaire would have to work hard to promote positive qualities while trying to negate the negative ones. He also reiterated that it's up to us to decide if the positive outweighs the negative. The last thing he left us with was that a replacement name must be in place before a decision to change the name. Otherwise, we would be heading for disaster. What is your message to them?
You're going to leave Lenox. You're not going to come back. You're not going to look twice. Leave us alone. Let us be who we are.
Against the name change. What do you have to say to all the people who are writing into the editor?
I think we definitely hear all of your comments and what your side is all about. I understand that you think the name is historic and traditional, and I don't question that in any way, but I do think that while that is really great for you, it no longer fits our school and hasn't for a few years, in my opinion.
I would say to them exactly what I've already said to you. It's too much part of our history.
Our country is divided. Our politics are divided. Heck, even our planet is divided. The argument was made that the Millionaire name is divisive. Over the last couple months, we've seen that our small town is incredibly and increasingly divided by this issue. Now, earlier you said that the name is divisive. Do you think that changing the name could ironically just create more division throughout the school and town?
That's a good question. I feel like, yeah, maybe it would at the beginning. Maybe it would.
Yeah, I definitely think that's one thing that we're afraid of, because in pursuing this change, we don't want to be dividing our town and creating arguments and fighting back and forth between two sides, but I think the main goal is to unify the town, and so in bringing this up, we would like to create a discussion rather than just an argument, I guess.
You choose if you want to be divided or not. United you stand, divided you fall.
When the debate was just starting, I posted a post saying that before anyone gets crazy about this, and they have, I just wanted to point out that we are still one town, and one mascot can't and shouldn't define the entire town.
More of a informed adult, perhaps less emotional conversation about this topic, and come to a consensus decision. So I don't know, maybe I'm kind of dreaming about that, but I would hope that in our community, that's the way we can see ourselves through this.
This debate has picked up national coverage, and that's no surprise. This is a truly unique situation. As more people join in and this comes closer to a resolve, you're going to hear people use words like snowflake, intolerant, snobby, and just about everything else you can think of. If you think the name should be changed, I implore you to take a long look at the history and at the arguments that have been presented. If you think that the name should stay, I implore you just as much to think about it from another point of view and try to see past just the history and tradition. If you don't know what to think, then consider both arguments very, very carefully. Regardless of all that, make your voice heard. Write to the editor, call the school board, talk to people. Arguing on Facebook will not change anything. If you care about this issue, then you need to do something meaningful. And just remember that however important the mascot is to you, it's nowhere close to as important as the town of Lenox.